Welcome to Guilty by Syntax. In today's episode, Guilty by Algorithm, when AI's pattern recognition detains innocence.
So our mission today really is to unpack how this algorithmic pattern recognition can and does lead to the wrongful detention and sometimes even deportation of U.S. citizens and legal residents.
We'll explore the very real human cost, look at the specific tools IC is actually deploying, and dig into the underlying biases baked into these systems, and also the current legal vacuum that kind of allows it to happen, and crucially, what can actually be done about it. You've provided us with some really compelling sources for this deep dive. We've got a detailed report on AI bias and ICE operations, several, frankly, heartbreaking documented case studies.
Yeah, those cases are tough.
And a lot of eye-opening details on ICE's expanding algorithmic arsenal. So our goal here is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight for you. Sort of a shortcut to getting well-informed on this really crucial subject.
And the chilling part, I think, is seeing how these algorithms, despite maybe seeming neutral on the surface, are already dismantling real lives right now.
That's precisely it. You highlighted this scenario in your initial query, this idea of a Filipino-American citizen being mistakenly detained as an undocumented Latina just because, well, the algorithm said so.
Yeah.
It sounds almost like something out of a sci-fi movie, doesn't it?
It really does. But the research shows it's not fiction. It points to a very real and disturbing pattern. We're seeing U.S. citizens, legal residents, people of Filipino descent, Hispanic descent, wrongfully targeted by ICE because of these flawed identification processes. This is the human cost we're talking about when the algorithms get it wrong.
It's a tangible example of what happens when the system values a perceived data pattern over, an actual person's identity and their right to due process.
Exactly.
And we have several specific cases that really bring this home. Take Maximo Londonio, for instance. He's a 42-year-old U.S. permanent resident, a union member. Last year, May 16th, he's coming back from a family holiday, gets detained by ICE at Seattle-Tacoma Airport.
Right.
Held for nearly a month. This is despite having a valid green card.
A whole month.
Yeah. And his detention was apparently triggered by older nonviolent convictions.
Okay. So past history, even nonviolent.
Exactly. What this shows is how past infractions, regardless of how serious they were or how long ago, can be used to detain someone, potentially without, proper due process right at that initial stop. Historical data, stripped of context, becomes the trigger. It's literally that algorithm said, I matched the pattern scenario playing out.
And Llewellyn Dixon's case, another Filipino green card holder, also detained at SeaTac, it just reinforces that pattern. Similar to Londonio, her detention might have been linked to an embezzlement conviction, but from way back in 2001.
Wow, 2001.
Yeah. These parallels suggest, a strategy. Targeting based on demographic profiles, historical data flags. Doesn't matter what your current legal status is or how old the offense is, it points to a proactive, data-driven approach by ICE that can lead to these immediate and often wrongful detentions.
And then consider Elzon Lemus. He's a 23-year-old Hispanic U.S. citizen from Long Island, pulled over by ICE. And they tell him, quote, you look like someone we're looking for. His attorney straight up called it racial profiling. And this case kind of hints at AI's subtle reach, right? Even if the agents aren't saying, the algorithm told me. The biases that are baked into the tools they use can still drive actions like racial profiling. There's like an invisible algorithmic hand pushing things along.
It's not always just a one-time mistake either. Look at Job Garcia, a 37-year-old U.S. citizen, detained multiple times without cause during a raid. He actually recorded agents talking down to him in Spanish, assuming he didn't understand English.
That's awful.
His repeated detention points to a systemic failure. The underlying flaws aren't being fixed. So if an AI system is involved in flagging people, it suggests the system's pattern isn't being updated or corrected. Even when a human steps in and says, wait, this is wrong, it just flags them again later.
The system just isn't learning. And we have cases that make the link to technology explicit. Juan Carlos Lopez Gomez arrested, jailed for 30 hours based on, quote, biometric confirmation of his identity. It turned out to be an obvious mistake of facial recognition.
An obvious mistake.
Yeah. And Genzi Machado held at gunpoint because of mistaken identity. Someone else had given his home address on a deportation order.
Wow.
So this directly confirms the role of error-prone tech in these violations of civil liberties. That arrest first, verify later approach is a huge due process concern.
And it goes beyond just direct misidentification. Some cases show systems flagging people based on perceived threats or their activities, which is maybe even more chilling. Rumesa Usturk, PhD student at Tufts, totally legal visa, detained for 6 weeks. Why? Reportedly because her visa was revoked after she co-wrote an op-ed critical of Turkey.
Just for writing an op-ed.
Seems like it. And Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian green card holder, Columbia grad student, detained after his visa was revoked because he participated in pro-Palestinian protests. Now, maybe not direct AI misidentification in these cases, but they show how algorithmic systems could potentially flag people based on speech, associations, political activity. It demonstrates a much broader algorithmic influence on basic civil liberties.
These aren't just, unfortunate one-offs. A Government Accountability Office report, the GAO report, found that between 2015 and 2020, ICE arrested 674 people who were potentially U.S. citizens.
674.
Detained 121 of them. And get this, they actually deported 70 U.S. citizens by mistake.
70 deported citizens.
70 lives completely turned upside down. It really shows how fragile someone's legal status can become when algorithms are given this kind of unchecked power.
Yeah.
And the GAO report specifically points out there's no formal system in place within ICE to verify U.S. citizenship before detaining or deporting someone.
That's just fundamentally broken.
It is. And like you noted in your query, it gets amplified when training data becomes destiny.
And that concern that training data becomes destiny, it's deeply rooted in how DHS and IC are increasingly relying on AI and these advanced surveillance tech.
The expansion's incredibly fast. The 2024 DHS inventory, 105 active AI use cases. That's up from just 39 the year before.
Huge jump.
Massive jump. And 61% of them are related to law and justice, with 16 specifically using facial recognition. It signals this really profound shift toward automated enforcement. Algorithms are becoming central to these life-altering immigration decisions.
And more use means, well, more potential for errors at scale.
Exactly.
And they're using some very specific tools to do this. The Mobile Fortify app, for example. ICE agents now have this app on their smartphones for real-time biometric ID verification right there in the field.
On the spot.
On the spot. Contactless fingerprints, facial images captured by their ICE phones. It compares them against databases like CBP's Traveler Verification Service, the photos they take when you enter the U.S. This kind of instant ID, combined with how notoriously unreliable facial recognition can be, well, it creates a super high-risk situation for misidentification. It directly enables that algorithm said, I match the pattern problem.
And then there's Clearview AI. ICE has, $3.6 million in contracts with them?
Right. The one that scrapes billions of public photos off the internet.
Exactly. Using that drastically expands their pattern recognition way beyond official government databases. It pulls in your whole, unregulated digital footprint.
Yeah, that's where training data becomes destiny. It gets really, really scary. It's not just government records anymore.
And it's moving beyond just ID checks. Look at the Palantir contract. ICE extended it for $30 million to develop a system specifically to locate people flagged for deportation.
Okay, so that's proactive targeting.
Right. This is a direct example of a runaway algorithm flags a person as a threat. It implies the system is actively predicting or identifying people for enforcement, not just confirming who they are after the fact.
And widening that net even further, public records show ICE agents also got access to a huge nationwide database of automatic license plate readers from Flock Safety.
So tracking movements.
Pervasive tracking of movements, yeah. Regardless of whether there's any suspicion, this broad data collection then gets integrated with the other AI tools. It enables this really comprehensive pattern recognition based on where you go. It links directly to that idea of how even your zip code could contribute to your sort of algorithmic destiny.
And yet, despite all this, ICE's FY 2024 report talks about building and maintaining public trust through accountability and transparency. They even mention a new dashboard for unprecedented access to information. But civil liberties groups look at these AI deployments and call them opaque, lacking oversight. It makes you wonder if the transparency is more performance than reality.
Yeah, it definitely raises questions.
The statement you shared with us really hit hard. Ethics didn't fail. The engineers didn't fail. We failed when we baked injustice into logic and called it progress. It captures the heart of AI bias in these critical systems, doesn't it? The problem isn't AI itself necessarily, but how it's designed, how it's deployed, especially when it's trained on bad data or used without proper checks and balances.
Exactly. And that baked-in injustice is maybe clearest with facial recognition technology, which is a cornerstone of ICE's bigger toolkit now. A lot of listeners probably know it's generally unreliable, but it's crucial to get that this isn't just random error. Study after study shows it's way more likely to misidentify people of color. The error rates for Black women, for instance, are particularly high.
Right.
This points to a systemic flaw. It's rooted in the training data, in the algorithms themselves. It reinforces that whole training data becomes destiny idea. And that inherent bias, that's exactly why someone like a Filipina might be mistaken for a Latina by the system.
And this algorithmic bias, it seeps into the broader immigration systems too, leading to what the sources called unfair discrimination. Think about it. Immigration decisions have historically involved decades of human judgment calls, and let's be honest, many of those were flawed, biased.
Decades of flawed data.
Right. So when you train AI on that historical data, it just learns and repeats those existing human biases. It automates injustice, scales it up. Without really careful management, these AI systems can apparently even hallucinate fake laws or reject perfectly good applications.
Hallucinate fake laws.
Yeah. And the result is often just a broken life and a shrug. No apology, no real accountability.
And the impact on due process, on civil liberties, it's stark. Putting these AI surveillance tools out on the streets creates this huge risk of American citizens being improperly targeted, arrested, and detained. This widespread surveillance, often working with that arrest first, verify later logic, it fundamentally undermines Fifth and Fourth Amendment rights.
Absolutely.
It flips the burden of proof. Suddenly, algorithmic suspicion, not actual probable cause, becomes enough to detain someone. The ACLU warns these tools encode existing societal bias against marginalized communities, leading straight to erroneous decisions about who to arrest or watch. This is exactly how the system can just abruptly derail your life. It's not theoretical anymore.
And despite this tech spreading like wildfire, the legal and ethical rules to govern it are lagging way behind. It creates this kind of broken compass for accountability and justice. It leaves people really vulnerable to unchecked algorithms.
Yeah, there's a critical regulatory gap. Right now, there are basically no comprehensive laws regulating the federal government's use of facial recognition technology. And Congress never actually authorized DHS to use face recognition this way in the first place.
So they're just doing it.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
And even existing rules, like Europe's GDPR, they don't have specific guidelines for how AI impacts complex legal decisions like these. This whole permissive environment just leads to unfettered abuses.
The U.S. Commission on Civil Rights tried to flag this back in September 2024, raising urgent concerns. Immigration lawyers now find themselves fighting AI decisions that are made often behind the scenes. It's that classic black box problem.
Right. You don't know why the decision was made?
Exactly. If an AI makes a call, you need, as one source put it, a kindergarten explanation layer. Something clear enough for non-experts to understand so you can actually scrutinize it and challenge it.
A kindergarten explanation layer. I like that.
Without that, challenging a decision is almost impossible. And you just get stuck in that broken life and a shrug situation again.
And getting legal help, finding redress, it's incredibly tough. Who's liable when an AI gets it wrong? Is it the company that made the AI, the government agency using it? Both. Your concluding thought for us, though, was powerful. We don't need fewer engineers. We need systems that ask better questions before they automate answers. And that really points towards a path forward, right? A multi-pronged approach to tackle this algorithmic injustice.
Absolutely. And prioritizing human-centered AI design have to be fundamental. AI systems need to be built to actually benefit people and society, respecting human rights, diversity. Human oversight is key. The principle should be, like the source said, let tech sit at the desk, but humans still hold the stamp.
Augment, don't replace.
Exactly. AI should help human judgment, not replace it entirely. That's how we ensure systems that ask better questions, by baking ethical checks and human review right into the design from the start.
And transparency and explainability, they're just non-negotiable. We absolutely need that kindergarten explanation layer for AI decisions. Something clear enough for policy folks, lawyers, everyone to understand so we can have real scrutiny. Plus, detailed documentation of the whole AI lifecycle. That's crucial for tracking things down and holding systems accountable. These aren't just tech specs, they're basic requirements for due process. Otherwise, the black box stays black.
And we need robust bias mitigation. Not as an afterthought, but proactively and continuously. This means making sure AI decisions actually comply with anti-discrimination laws, developing frameworks that test and retest AI models for bias all the time.
Like fairness testing.
Yeah, fairness testing using post-processing techniques to correct bias, actively baking justice into the logic instead of injustice.